Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well. These guys move fast. Faster than even I can imagine. And believe me, I can think very in this kind of instances. Now what do we have here? We have the commemoration of the Holodomor. The Holodomor was the keyword Soviet genocide against the Ukrainian people, peasants, all right? So that was in 1932 and 1933. According to estimates, it's been between, 6 million and, I couldn't say 6 million. Let's make it between 5 million and maybe 10 million, 8 million, different figures were, put forth. Nevertheless, there were millions of Ukrainians that were starved in the keyword Soviet Union. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. Russia was part of the Soviet Union. Moldova was part of the Soviet Union. Kazakhstan was part of it. Armenia was part of the Soviet Union, and so on. Okay, so it was not. Do not conflate Soviet Union with Russia. These guys are trying to do that, but all right, they do it for political reasons. And you say, well, we know it was Russia. No, we don't. And I tell you why. Because the communists, the Bolsheviks, were mostly non-Russians in the leadership and in the commissariat. So if you don't believe me, check their names, all right? Just a little bit of click. A little bit of this kind of hard work and a little bit of mental energy wasted, or maybe wasted in a good way. So in this case, we have the Holodomor, and it's a 90th commemoration. And surprise, a lot of countries start recognizing the Holodomor as being a genocide. And that is Moldova, the parliament, Belarus, who already, and right now because they did this, are already legitimate government. Before this, they're not legitimate government or anything, because now it fits their, and then, yeah, you're with us. Good. Now, when they don't do what these guys want, you're illegitimate. All right, so let's move on. It was a tragedy. It was horrible. We know, the history has it right there. Who is responsible? Who was responsible for this atrocity, this genocide? We have the names. They even indicted posthumously, so after they died. The names, and we have the names. And you might think is Putin, Lavrov, Sergei, Shoigu, Maria Zakharova, and all these guys. And I was thinking, that means they're all Russians. And I was thinking, why do these guys want to bring it up and everybody's jumping up and says, well, this was genocide. Now, I say, does it have to do something with the war in Ukraine? And I said, yeah, it must. I'm waiting. I said, probably they want to make a connection between Soviet Union, which they will turn into Russia somehow, and say, hey, Russia then, Russia now, the same people, the same actions, the same butchers. But the details actually fuck up the whole thing. Why? Because when you look at the details, you don't find many Russians in the leadership positions or the ones that made the decision. You find other ones that are surprisingly riding very high in Ukraine at this moment. And if you know that psychological method, when you are the criminal, you're the one who points out other people being the criminals. And hey, the crime, he did it, and he did it. Why? You try to cover your tracks for a while, and you just lead them to other things. By the time they come to get you, you're long dead, or you're long gone to, Jerusalem, London, wherever you are gone, okay? So they can't catch you anymore. So in this case, we have, obviously they got so fast from yesterday. I made a video on that. I think yesterday it was, until today. One day they needed to make the connection between Holodomor and Russia right now. Russians, see? Same guys, same mentality, bad people. So this article comes from, Jerusalem Post, the Jewish state, yes. And guess what? This is the title. Ukrainian President Chief of Staff. He's a Jerusalem guy. He's Mr. Yermak. Mr. Yermak is Jewish. Aww. He's one of the 4 little pigs, kosher little pigs, that lead the Ukrainian nation. He, Reznikov, who's the Minister of Defense. He's got the weapons and shit. Then you got Shmihal, who's got the money and shit, right? He's the second in command. And then you got the chief, Zelensky, who was elected democratically because the Ukrainians could not find the Ukrainian. Okay, so that's 4. So this guy, look at this. So these guys are crying. This guy says, Ukraine's president chief of staff says Russia will pay for Soviet-era famine. Okay, Reznikov, let's see how many Russians were in that Holodomor, which, as I said, someone should pay. We got the names, okay? Not Russia. We got the names, all right? If I, God forbid, commit a crime, you don't punish people born in Romania for their crime, or my children or my parents. You just punish me for my crime, Emil Kosman, okay? That's the way. Or you don't cut every male's dicks off because Emil Kosman is a male and he committed a crime, okay? But this gentleman, I'm not a gentleman, he's a human being. You have to earn that term. This guy is still used with collective punishment, which you find in the Old Testament, okay? So if I do something, then all my family has to be punished for that, to the 7th generation or more, depending how God tells whomever. So this is what it says here. Russia will pay for Soviet-era famine that left millions of Ukrainians dead during the winter of 1932-1933 and for its actions in the current war in Ukraine, the head of Ukrainian presidential administration said. The head of Ukraine's presidential administration said, like a chief of staff. And it says, the Russians, I'm quoting, the Russians will pay for all the victims of Holodomor and answer for today's crimes. Andriy Yermak, go and check his name, check his bio, and you will know what I'm talking about, wrote this. Okay, man, I mean, it's not good, but it says, in November 1932, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, what? Well, okay, Soviet leader who was not Russian, okay, dispatched police to seize all grain and livestock from newly collectivized Ukrainian farms, including the seed needed to plant the next crop. Criminal, right? Millions of Ukrainian peasants starved to death in the following months from the Yale University historian Timothy Snyder calls clearly premeditated mass murder. I totally agree with that. Now, let's see the names, okay? The Russian name. Why would you drop that on Russia? So I'm going to just mention the same names I mentioned in the previous video regarding the Holodomor. So it says here that on January 13th, I get this from Wikipedia, so it's the easiest way, and it's a fact. It's not me pulling shit out of my butt, okay? Even though I could. So on January 13th, 2010, Kiev Appellate Court posthumously found, and I will have about 5 names, guilty of genocide against Ukrainians during the catastrophic Holodomor famine. So it was 2010, Ukraine was independent, correct? What it was, they determined in Kiev, and I'm going to give you the names that Appellate Court found guilty. Mr. Kaganovich. Kaganovich is Jewish, right? So he's front guy here. No, let's get with the front guy, Stalin. He is Georgian, not Russian. He was the leader of Russia? No, of Soviet Union. Second one, Kaganovich. Kaganovich is Jewish. Hey, Yermak, what the fuck are you doing? You point fingers in the wrong direction here. Postyshev, which was Russian. Remember, this is the only one. Then we go Kosher, right? Kosher was a Polish. Hey, Poland, hello. So you gotta pay. And then we got Chubar. And Chubar was what? Ukrainian. Can you believe it? So much multiculturalism here. They like diversity. So diversity, all right? So these guys, it says, and other Soviet Communist Party functionaries guilty of genocide. Well, I have other names as well, and you're going to find kind of the same diversity in ethnicity. Now, out of these guys mentioned, and I will use the Stalin, so Stalin, Kaganovich, Postyshev, Kosher, Chubar, right? Out of these 5 people mentioned that I will mention here, only one is Russian. Only one. All the other ones are something else. So why would you point this to Russia? So it's 20%. 20%. So why don't you go to say that, oh, Mr. Yermak, let's go back to what you're saying. Russia should pay. Why Russia? It was not Russia, it was Soviet Union, and besides Soviet Union, you were part of the Soviet Union. So not you, Yermak, you were not part of Soviet. You were just leading the Soviet Union, as you do now in Ukraine. And besides, remember, it was also another guy that I do not know his deep involvement in this, and this is Nikita, Mr. Nikita Khrushchev, who, if I remember correctly, he's got something with Ukraine as well. His mom or something was Ukrainian or something like that. I don't know his involvement too deep in that. He's not mentioned here. I know from, I think, 1933 to 1934, he was in charge of other mass murders, but I don't know if he was in charge of the Holodomor. If he was, he is another guy right there. And believe me, look at the names of the commissars. They all knew the commissars were very, very much multicultural, if you know what I mean, but predominantly one dominated. Check them out. If you don't believe me, just check the Katyn forest massacre in Poland, right? 15,000 or so Polish intelligentsia killed by the Soviets when they invaded, and no declaration of war was issued by Great Britain or France, but they issued the same declaration of war to the other guys who did the same thing as Soviets did, which is the Wehrmacht, the Germans. So why is that? Is that controlled? I think so. Why and why not? And why would you jump on Hitler but not jump on Stalin? Is it because of this multiculturalism clique over there? Is it? No, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, they say, well, we don't want to fight two of them in the same time. Really? It's like you fight five pedophiles and you're afraid to name them all? You're just going to pick the ones that, I don't know, they're kind of against something else? No, you call them all out. Him, and I'm going to fight you all. If you are so much virtuous, then you don't pick and choose. That means you're a fucking hack. Now, in this case, Russia will not pay for that, and if they have to pay for this war crimes that they are accused of in this war, and they should, they meaning the people responsible, not the country, the people responsible. And you can find the names through investigations. If you don't find the names, you can't drop that on a collective Russia. Okay, it's unjust. I don't want, if someone finds that, I don't know, during the Iraq invasion and illegal bombardment of Serbia, a lot of people died innocently, but who's not innocent anyway. You don't say, hey, United States pays, therefore Emil pays. No, I don't pay for that. I didn't do it. You don't turn that shit into me now, because you wouldn't like that done to you. If you would do, then it would be anyway unjust anyway, even if you like it or you don't like it. All right? No collective punishment, no Torah here, okay? No Talmud, no nothing like that, Mr. Yermak. Go and talk to your little other three guys over there and tell them to come to their senses, all right? But at least one day I was waiting, and who's coming out? Mr. Kaganovich, I mean Yermak, comes and tells us who's guilty of it and who should pay. Russians. No, why not Ukrainians? I mean, one of them was Ukrainian. I can go to two of them. Why not the Georgians? They were in charge. Stalin was in charge. However you turn it, you cannot point it to a Russian person in the decision-making structure of Soviet Union, because you're always going to hit Stalin until what? 1952 or 54? 54, I think he died or something, or 52. He was like, and his doctor. And who came and found him, and that's another story over there in itself about Stalin, nobody touching Stalin for what, 48 hours or so, and he was still there. And you find the names. Again, find the fucking names and look at their bios, and say, oh my God, I didn't know this is another Yermak here. Jesus Christ. Anyway, he was preparing a purge, by the way. Yes. And so he had to be... That's the way it works. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.